I spent 8 months sewing every stitch, every bead into my daughter's wedding dress. But there, in that luxurious dressing room, I heard her whisper to someone, "This cheap outfit? I'll wear the one my mother-in-law gave me instead." In that moment, my heart shattered. But they didn't know that I, the woman they thought had already surrendered, still had a needle hidden among my threads. My name is Margaret Hensley, and at 65, my hands tell the story of a lifetime spent caring for others. First as a nurse at St. Helena Care Center here in Brookfield, Oregon, and then as a mother who stitched love into every garment my daughter ever wore. These fingers, now marked with age spots and tiny scars from countless needle pricks, have been working on something extraordinary for the past 8 months. Clara's wedding dress. The old Victorian house on Maple Street feels too big since Richard passed 5 years ago, but my sewing room remains my sanctuary. Every night after dinner, I'd climb the creaking stairs to the converted bedroom where my Singer machine sits beneath the window. The desk lamp would cast its warm glow over ivory silk and delicate lace as I worked until my eyes burned and my back ached. Clara used to love watching me sew when she was little. She'd sit cross-legged on the carpet, sorting buttons by color while I hemmed her school dresses. "Mommy's making magic," she'd say, her hazel eyes wide with wonder. I made her first communion dress, her prom gowns, even the costume for her starring role in the high school production of Romeo and Juliet. This wedding dress was different. This was my masterpiece, my love letter sewn in silk. Every evening, I'd spread the fabric across the cutting table, my reading glasses perched on my nose as I guided each stitch with the precision I once used to insert IV lines. The bodice featured hand-embroidered roses, Clara's favorite flower, with tiny seed pearls at each center. The train swept behind like a river of moonlight, edged with antique lace I'd saved from my own mother's wedding veil. Some nights, my fingers would cramp so badly I'd have to soak them in warm water with Epsom salts. The needle would slip, leaving tiny punctures that bloomed red against my pale skin. But I didn't mind. This was for Clara, my only child, the girl I'd raised alone after Richard's heart gave out in the middle of a Tuesday morning. The dress hung on the vintage mannequin in the corner, slowly taking shape like a ghost of all my hopes for her happiness. I'd catch myself talking to it sometimes, remembering the teenage Clara who'd spin in my handmade dresses, laughing as the skirts flared out. "You're the best mom ever," she'd say, throwing her arms around my neck. When had that changed? When she started her marketing job in Portland? When she met James Carter and his old money family? I couldn't pinpoint the moment my homemade gifts became embarrassments instead of treasures. The final fitting was 3 weeks before the wedding. Clara stood on the wooden stool in my sewing room, and for a moment, she looked like my little girl again. The dress fit perfectly, hugging her figure before flowing into that spectacular train. But her face remained neutral, almost distant, as she examined herself in the three-way mirror. "It's nice, Mom," she said, smoothing the silk with manicured nails that had never known the prick of a sewing needle. "Very traditional." Traditional. The word stung more than any needle ever had. I'd poured 8 months of my life into those seams, whispered prayers into every gather and pleat. But I smiled and made the tiny adjustments she requested, pretending not to notice how she kept checking her phone or how she never once said, "Thank you." Now, as I sit in my empty kitchen at 2:30 a.m., unable to sleep with the wedding just days away, I run my fingertips over the small scars that map my devotion. Tomorrow, I'll deliver the dress to the Grand Meridian Hotel, where Clara will prepare for her big day. Tomorrow, my baby girl will wear the dress I bled for, literally and figuratively. At least, that's what I believed. God help me. That's what I believed. The Grand Meridian Hotel towered over downtown Portland like a glass and steel monument to everything I wasn't. My old Camry looked out of place in the valet circle. Surrounded by Mercedes and Teslas, I clutched the garment bag containing Clara's dress, my knuckles white against the black fabric. The bridal suite was on the 20th floor, all marble and crystal, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Clara's bridesmaids fluttered around like expensive butterflies, sipping champagne at 10:15 a.m. while a team of stylists worked their magic. I stood in the doorway, invisible, just another vendor delivering goods. "Mom," Clara called out from the makeup chair, not turning her head to disturb the artist working on her eyes. "Just hang it in the closet, would you?" I navigated through the chaos of curling irons and designer shoes, carefully hanging the dress in the walk-in closet. My hands trembled as I unzipped the bag, revealing 8 months of devotion. The ivory silk caught the light, the hand-sewn pearls gleaming like tiny stars. "Is that it?" A voice dripped with barely concealed disdain. I turned to find Evelyn Carter standing behind me, examining the dress like a health inspector looking for violations. James's mother was everything I wasn't. Polished, elegant, with diamonds that could fund a small town's budget. Her salon-perfect hair didn't have a single gray strand, unlike my simple bun streaked with silver. "Mrs. Carter," I managed, stepping aside as she moved closer to the dress. Her manicured fingers pinched the fabric between them, and I watched her nose wrinkle slightly. "Handmade," she said, making it sound like a disease. How quaint. "I suppose not everyone can afford couture." My chest tightened. "Clara asked me to make it. It's tradition in our family." "Tradition," Evelyn interrupted with a laugh that tinkled like breaking glass. "Well, traditions change, don't they? Especially when one marries up." She pulled out her phone, showing me a photo of a stunning designer gown. I took the liberty of purchasing this from Vera Wang's latest collection, just in case Clara wanted something more appropriate for the caliber of guests we're expecting. The room suddenly felt airless. I looked toward Clara, hoping she'd heard, hoping she'd defend the dress she'd stood still for during countless fittings. But she was laughing at something her maid of honor said, oblivious to the knife twisting in my back. "I'm sure Clara will wear what makes her happy," I said quietly. Evelyn's smile was sharp as a blade. "Oh, I'm certain she will." I excused myself, claiming I needed to use the restroom. The marble bathroom was mercifully empty, and I gripped the edge of the sink, trying to steady my breathing. That's when I heard them through the door. Clara and her bridesmaids had moved closer, their voices carrying clearly. "Your mom's dress is so sweet," one of them said, and I could hear the condescension coding each word. "Very homespun." Clara's laugh cut through me like shears through silk. "I know, right? She spent months on it, poor thing. But honestly, it looks like something from a thrift store. So dated. Thank God Evelyn bought that Vera Wang." "I'll just tell Mom I changed my mind at the last minute." "What will you do with her dress?" another voice asked. "I don't know. Donate it? Maybe someone who can't afford a real wedding dress would appreciate it." The words hit me like physical blows. Thrift store. Poor thing. Can't afford a real dress. Each phrase tore through the fabric of my heart, unraveling 30 years of motherhood into a heap of worthless thread. I stood frozen, my reflection in the mirror showing a woman I didn't recognize, hollow-eyed, humiliated, holding onto the sink like it was the only solid thing in a tilting world. Through the door, their laughter continued, my daughter's voice the loudest of all. "I mean, it's sweet that she tried," Clara continued, "but this is a Carter wedding now. We have standards to maintain." Standards. As if love stitched into silk wasn't standard enough. As if staying up until 3 a.m. to hand-sew beading because the machine would be too rough wasn't standard enough. As if every sacrifice I'd made to raise her alone, to give her everything, wasn't standard enough. I waited until their voices drifted away before emerging from the bathroom. The suite was still bustling with activity, but I moved through it like a ghost. Clara didn't even notice when I slipped out, too busy posing for the photographer who was capturing getting ready shots. The elevator ride down felt endless. 20 floors of descent, each one taking me further from the daughter I thought I knew. By the time I reached my car, my hands had stopped shaking. Something harder had settled in their place, a cold, crystalline anger that cut sharper than any needle. They wanted standards? They wanted appropriate? I sat in my car for a long moment, staring at the hotel's gleaming facade. Somewhere up there, my daughter was laughing about the dress I'd bled for. Somewhere up there, she was choosing Evelyn Carter's money over her mother's love. The drive home was a blur. But by the time I pulled into my driveway, one thing had become crystal clear. They might throw away my dress, but I wasn't going to let them throw away my dignity with it. The house was dark when I returned, the late afternoon sun unable to penetrate the drawn curtains. I sat at my kitchen table, still in my good dress, staring at nothing. The wedding dress, my wedding dress, not Clara's anymore, lay in its garment bag across the table like a body at a wake. Hours passed. The kitchen clock ticked towards 6:30 p.m., then 7, then 8. I didn't move, couldn't move. The phone rang twice, probably Clara calling to maintain her charade, but I let it go to voicemail. What was there to say? That I'd hurt her? That I knew what she really thought of me? Finally, as darkness settled completely, I unzipped the bag. The dress spilled out onto the table, ivory silk pooling like spilled milk. I ran my fingers over the embroidered roses, each one taking me 3 hours to complete. The seed pearls caught the overhead light, 247 of them, each sewn on by hand because the ones at the craft store weren't quite the right shade of cream. This dress was my autobiography written in thread. Here, in the bodice seam, was the night I'd ripped it out 3 times because it puckered slightly. There, in the hem, were the tiny stitches I'd made while listening to Clara's high school graduation on video because she'd been too embarrassed to have me at the ceremony. Her friends' parents were all younger, more polished. The invisible zipper I'd installed and reinstalled until it was perfect, working by feel because my eyes were too blurred with tears after our fight about her moving in with James without being married. Thrift store. I whispered to the empty room. The words tasted like ash. I thought about all the sacrifices that had led to this moment. The double shifts at the hospital to pay for her college. The vacations I never took so she could study abroad. The retirement fund I dipped into when she needed capital for her can't-miss business opportunity that missed spectacularly. I'd never complained, never made her feel guilty. That's what mothers did. We gave until we were empty, then found more to give. But being taken for granted was different from being mocked. Being undervalued was different from being erased. The anger that had cooled during the drive home began to heat again, but it was different now. Not the wild, hurt rage of betrayal, but something more focused, more deliberate. They thought I was just some old woman with a sewing machine and too much time on her hands. Some pathetic mother clinging to traditions that embarrassed her social climbing daughter. I stood abruptly, gathering the dress in my arms, in my sewing room. I hung it carefully on the mannequin, smoothing every wrinkle, under the bright crafting lights. It was even more beautiful than I'd realized. This wasn't some homespun attempt at fashion. This was artistry. This was love made tangible. But they couldn't see that, wouldn't see that. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through the messages I'd ignored. 3 from Clara, all variations of, "Thanks for dropping off the dress, Mom, can't wait to wear it." The hypocrisy made my stomach turn. Then, at 9:43 p.m., a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Mrs. Hensley, this is Evelyn Carter. I wanted to personally thank you for your effort with the dress. I'm sure Clara appreciates the gesture. However, I hope you understand that we've made other arrangements for the ceremony. No need to feel obligated about these things. Best Evelyn." Gesture, effort, obligated. Each word was carefully chosen to diminish, to put me in my place. The woman couldn't even wait for Clara to break the news herself. She had to twist the knife personally. I set the phone down and looked at my hands. These hands that had held Clara's fever-hot forehead, that had applauded at every recital, that had wiped away her tears over broken hearts. These same hands had been deemed not good enough to dress her for her wedding day. "I don't need recognition from strangers," I said aloud, testing the words. They felt hollow. But being erased by my own blood, that's different. The house settled around me with familiar creaks and sighs. Richard would have known what to say. He'd have wrapped his arms around me and reminded me that Clara was just caught up in the moment, that she'd come to her senses. But Richard was gone, and I was beginning to wonder if the daughter I'd raised had left with him. I touched the dress one more time, feeling the quality of the silk, the weight of the train, thousands of dollars in materials, 8 months of labor, a lifetime of love, all reduced to a punchline in a hotel suite. They wanted to erase me? Fine. But I wouldn't go quietly. For the first time since hearing those awful words, I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It wasn't the gentle, understanding smile of a mother who always forgave. This was something sharper, something that would have made Clara nervous if she'd seen it. Because they'd forgotten something crucial in their rush to dismiss me. I hadn't spent 30 years as a nurse without learning that the best surgeons aren't the ones who cut deepest. They're the ones who know exactly where to cut. And I knew exactly where Clara and Evelyn Carter were vulnerable. The wedding was in 6 days. That gave me plenty of time. The next morning, I was watering my roses when Gloria Mitchell appeared at the fence. My neighbor was a force of nature at 72, retired from running Portland's most successful event planning company and now channeling that energy into everyone else's business. "Margaret, honey, you look like death warmed over," she announced, studying me with sharp eyes. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," I lied, focusing on the pink damask roses Richard had planted for our anniversary. "Bull, I've known you for 15 years. Spill." Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was the way she said it. Like resistance was futile. I found myself telling her everything, the dress, the hotel, Clara's words, by the end. Gloria's face had hardened into something that would have terrified her former clients. "That ungrateful little—" She caught herself. "May I see the dress?" I led her inside, up to my sewing room. Gloria circled the mannequin like a general surveying battlefield terrain, occasionally lifting the fabric to examine the construction. Her expression shifted from anger to something like awe. "Margaret, this is museum quality. I've planned weddings with 6-figure budgets, and I've never seen handwork like this. The internal structure alone, French seams throughout, hand-rolled hems, this is what they teach in Paris, not Portland." "Lot of good it does me," I said bitterly. Gloria turned to me, a strange light in her eyes. "You know what your problem is? You've been giving away your talent for free. That girl doesn't value this dress because she's never had to value anything you've made. She's my daughter, who just stomped on your heart in designer heels." Gloria pulled out her phone, scrolling through contacts. "Remember Patricia Bennington, Senator Bennington's daughter? She's getting married in August, and she specifically wanted something unique, handmade. I told her I'd keep an eye out. Gloria, I can't—" "You can and you will." She was already typing. "I'm sending her photos of this dress. And Margaret, we're not going to mention it's a rejected commission. We're going to mention it's an exclusive original that's already attracted significant interest." "But it hasn't—" Gloria's smile was razor sharp. "It will. Trust me. I didn't build $1 million business without knowing how to create buzz. Clara wants to play in high society? Let's show her what that really means." By 11 a.m., Gloria had transformed my dining room into a photography studio. She'd brought professional lighting from her garage and was directing me like a fashion shoot. "Turn it slightly left. Perfect. Now detail shots of the beadwork." My phone buzzed. "Clara, I declined the call." "Good," Gloria said. "Let her wonder. Now, we need to document your process. Do you have photos from when you were making it?" I did, hundreds of them, meant for a scrapbook I'd planned to give Clara as a wedding gift. Gloria scrolled through them, occasionally making approving noises. "This is gold. Look at this one. Your hands placing each pearl. The story this tells. Margaret, do you understand what you've created here? This isn't just a dress. It's wearable art. It's a dress my daughter called cheap." I reminded her. "Your daughter," Gloria said carefully, "is an idiot. But her loss is about to be someone else's gain. Patricia just texted back. She wants to see it in person. Tomorrow." My stomach lurched. "I can't sell Clara's dress. It's not Clara's dress. She made that crystal clear. It's your dress, your art, your choice. Gloria's expression softened slightly. Besides, we're not selling it. We're showing it. Let Patricia see it. Let her tell her friends. Create some desire, some appreciation. And then, Gloria's smile returned, sharper than ever. Then we let human nature take its course. Clara's about to learn that in high society, the thing you can't have is always the thing you want most. That evening, I sat with Gloria's business card for Patricia Bennington, running my thumb over the embossed letters. Part of me wanted to pack the dress away, pretend none of this had happened. The mother in me whispered that Clara would come to her senses, apologize, make things right. But then I remembered Evelyn's text. No need to feel obligated. I picked up my phone and dialed Patricia's number. Miss Bennington? This is Margaret Hensley. I understand you're interested in commissioning a wedding dress. The conversation that followed was nothing like my interactions with Clara. Patricia asked about my experience, my techniques, my inspiration. She wanted to know about the symbolism of the roses, the choice of pearl placement, the hours involved. She spoke about the dress like it mattered. I'd love to see it in person, she said finally. Fair warning, if it's half as beautiful as Gloria's photos suggest, I might make you an offer you can't refuse. After we hung up, I walked back to my sewing room. The dress glowed in the lamplight, waiting. I touched the train, remembering Clara at 5, parading around in my old nightgown, playing bride. When I get married, Mommy, will you make my dress? Of course. Sweetheart. I'd promised. I'll make you the most beautiful dress in the world. Promise kept. Promise broken. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Clara. Mom, why aren't you answering? The wedding coordinator needs to know when you're bringing the dress for the final pressing. I typed back. There's been a development with the dress. We should talk. Let her wonder. Let her worry. Let her feel, for just a moment, what it was like to be dismissed. Gloria was right. It was time to stop giving my talent away to people who couldn't see its worth. Starting with my own daughter. Patricia Bennington arrived at 10 a.m. sharp in a Tesla that purred into my driveway. She was everything Clara pretended to be. Genuinely elegant, graciously wealthy, and surprisingly warm. When I led her to the sewing room, she actually gasped. Mrs. Hensley, this is extraordinary. She circled the dress slowly, photographing details with her phone. Gloria wasn't exaggerating. This belongs in a museum. It's just a dress, I said, the words automatic after years of downplaying my work. Patricia looked at me sharply. No, it's not. May I? She gestured toward the fabric. I nodded, watching as she examined the construction with knowledgeable fingers. Hand-rolled French seams, silk-covered buttons, each one unique, and this embroidery. How many hours? About 800 total. She whistled low. At standard couture rates, this would be worth $40,000, minimum. My knees felt weak. That's impossible. It's industry standard for this level of work. She straightened, meeting my eyes. Mrs. Hensley, I'll be direct. I want this dress, but more than that, I want you to make my wedding dress, something entirely mine. This dress is... I hesitated. It's already spoken for. Of course it is. Something this special would be. Patricia smiled, but I can wait, and when you're ready to take commissions, I'll be first in line. After she left, pressing her business card into my hand with a promise to make it worth your while, I sat in my kitchen, staring at my phone. 17 missed calls from Clara, 3 from Evelyn. The texts had progressed from confused to concerned to angry. Clara, what do you mean development? Clara, Mom, the wedding is in 5 days. Clara, this isn't funny anymore. Evelyn, Margaret, this childishness is beneath you. The dress needs to be delivered. Childishness. From the woman who'd orchestrated my humiliation. Gloria appeared at my back door at 2 p.m., holding her tablet and grinning like a cat with cream. You're not going to believe this. She showed me her Instagram. The photos of my dress, artfully shot and hashtagged, had been shared over 3,000 times. Comments poured in. Stunning. Where can I buy this? This is what wedding dreams are made of. I may have tagged a few influential fashion bloggers. Gloria admitted. And Patricia Bennington just posted about meeting Oregon's best-kept couture secret. She has 90,000 followers. My phone rang. Clara, this time, I answered. Mom, what the hell is going on? Marissa just showed me some Instagram post about my dress. Your dress? I kept my voice level. I thought it looked like a thrift store find. Silence. Then, you heard. Every word. Mom, I didn't mean, the girls were making fun of your mother's work. Yes, I heard that too. It's not like that. Clara's voice pitched higher. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. The Carters have expectations. And I don't? That's not what I meant. Clara. I cut her off. Years of swallowed words finally rising. I spent 8 months creating something beautiful for you. You couldn't even pretend to appreciate it for 5 minutes. I do appreciate it. Evelyn said it was quaint. You said it was cheap. Which is it? Mom, please. The wedding will happen with or without my dress. After all, you have that lovely Vera Wang. But people are talking about your dress now. Mrs. Patterson called Evelyn asking who designed it, and the Weatherbys want to know if you take commissions. There it was. The truth. She didn't want my dress until others did. I need to go, I said. I have a client meeting. Client? What client, Mom? I hung up. By evening, the situation had exploded beyond Gloria's wildest hopes. The story had been picked up by a popular wedding blog. Mother's handmade masterpiece goes viral after daughter's rejection. They'd somehow gotten the basic story, minus names, and the comments section was brutal. That bride doesn't deserve that dress or that mom. Team Mom all the way. Can she make my dress? My phone buzzed constantly. Unknown numbers, wedding planners, boutique owners. I turned it off. Overwhelmed. This wasn't what I'd planned. I just wanted... What? Recognition? Revenge? Both, Gloria said when I asked her. We were sitting on my porch, watching the sunset, and there's nothing wrong with that. You've given everything to everyone else for 65 years. Maybe it's time to take something back. She's still my daughter. Who hurt you? Publicly. Deliberately. Gloria's voice was gentle but firm. Being family doesn't give her the right to treat you like that. The next morning, a FedEx truck pulled up. The driver handed me an envelope marked urgent. Inside, on Evelyn Carter's personal stationery, Margaret, the situation with the dress has become untenable. Whatever game you're playing needs to stop. The society pages are having a field day. I'm prepared to offer you $5,000 for the dress and your silence about this matter. This is more than generous for homemade goods. E. Carter. Homemade goods. $5,000 for 800 hours of work and a lifetime of skill. Less than minimum wage. I photographed the letter and sent it to Gloria. Her response was immediate. Oh, she just made a big mistake. Within an hour, the letter was circulating online with the caption, "What's a mother's love worth? According to some, $5K in silence." The internet exploded, and somewhere in Portland, my daughter was learning that you can't unmock someone, you can't unhurt them, and you definitely can't unviral them. The wedding was in 3 days. Clara would have her Vera Wang, and I had something better. I had my dignity back. The doorbell rang at 8 p.m. I wasn't expecting anyone. Gloria had finally gone home after fielding calls all day, and I disconnected my landline. Through the peephole, I saw Clara standing on my porch, mascara smudged, holding a bottle of wine like a peace offering. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. Mom. Her voice was small. Can we talk? We can talk here. She flinched. In 28 years, I'd never left her standing on the porch. I deserve that. Yes, you do. The whole thing has gotten out of control. Evelyn is furious. The country club is buzzing about it. James's partners keep sending him links to the articles. She paused, seeming to realize how that sounded. But that's not why I'm here. Isn't it? No, I mean... She stopped, took a breath. I'm here because I hurt you. Because I was awful. Because I got caught up in impressing people who don't even matter and forgot about the person who does. Pretty words. She'd always been good with words. Marketing major, after all. What do you want, Clara? I want to wear your dress. The words tumbled out. I want to walk down the aisle in the dress you made me. I want to fix this. Because everyone's talking about it now. No, because it's beautiful. Because you made it. Because I was an idiot. I studied her face, looking for the telltale signs I'd learned when she was 5 and blamed broken vases on imaginary friends. The slight twitch near her left eye, the way she couldn't quite meet my gaze. You're lying. Mom, Evelyn sent the Vera Wang back, didn't she? Bad publicity to wear it now. Clara's silence confirmed everything. So now you need my thrift store dress. How convenient. That's not... Okay, yes, she returned it. But that's not why I'm here. Mom, I've been miserable for days. I can't sleep. I keep thinking about all those nights you stayed up sewing, and I didn't even say thank you properly. I'm so sorry. Sorry you got caught or sorry you hurt me. Both. Sorry I hurt you. Getting caught just made me realize, go home, Clara. Mom, please. The wedding is in 3 days. You need... I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You need... What about what I needed? A daughter who didn't mock my work to her friends? A thank you that wasn't forced? Just once. Clara, I needed you to look at something I made and see love instead of embarrassment. I do see it. I see it now. Because strangers on the internet told you to, not because you felt it. I started to close the door. You'll have a beautiful wedding. Evelyn will figure something out. She always does. Mom, wait. She wedged her foot in the door. What do you want me to do? I'll do anything. I want you to live with your choices. Like I've had to. That's not fair. Fair? The word exploded out of me. Was it fair when you let Evelyn insult my work? Was it fair when you laughed about donating my dress to someone who couldn't afford better? Was it fair when you chose her over me without a second thought? Clara was crying now. Ugly sobs that would have moved me a week ago. I know I messed up. I know I was horrible. But you're my mom. You're supposed to... What? Forgive you? Take whatever you dish out? Be grateful for scraps of affection when you remember I exist? I shook my head. I've been supposed to my whole life. I'm done. So that's it. You're really going to let me get married without your dress? Without your blessing? I'm not stopping you from getting married. As for my dress, it was never really yours, was it? You made that very clear. What about Dad? She played her last card. He'd be so disappointed in you. The words hit exactly where she'd aimed, but not how she'd expected. Richard would be disappointed. In her. In the daughter who'd inherited his eyes but not his heart. Your father knew the value of handmade things, I said quietly. He kept every ugly tie you ever made him, wore them to work with pride. He would have worn that dress himself before he'd let anyone mock it. Clara's foot slid back. She knew she'd lost. I'll be at your wedding, I said. I'll smile for the photos. I'll give a toast if asked, but I'll be there as a guest, not as the mother who dressed you. That privilege went to Evelyn. Enjoy it. I closed the door on her protests, sliding the chain into place. Through the wood, I could hear her calling. Mom, please, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry, such a small word for such a big wound. I walked upstairs to my sewing room, where the dress waited in the darkness. Tomorrow, Patricia Bennington would return with her checkbook and her contracts. Tomorrow, I'd begin a new chapter as Margaret Hensley, designer, instead of just Margaret Hensley, taken for granted mother. But tonight, I sat in Richard's old chair and let myself mourn the daughter I'd thought I'd raised, the one who would have worn my dress with pride, not obligation, the one who existed only in photographs now, gap-toothed and giggling, wrapped in handmade clothes and unconditional love. Outside, Clara's car finally started. I didn't watch her leave. The dress glowed in the moonlight, waiting for someone who'd treasure it. It just wouldn't be my daughter. The Grand Meridian Hotel gleamed in the afternoon sun, its ballroom transformed into what looked like a modern fairy tale. White orchids and gold accents everywhere. Exactly the kind of pristine perfection Evelyn Carter demanded. I sat at table 12, strategically placed just far enough from the main table to signal my diminished status. Margaret, you look stunning, said a familiar voice. I turned to find Patricia Bennington, radiant in emerald silk. Patricia? I didn't know you knew the Carters. James handled my father's campaign finances. She glanced toward the bride's room. Though after this week's drama, I'm questioning their judgment. How are you holding up? I'm fine. I lied smoothly. She squeezed my shoulder. The fashion world's gain is Clara's loss. By the way, I brought someone who's dying to meet you. Before I could respond, she'd flagged down a young woman in vintage Chanel. Margaret Hensley, meet Sophia Weatherby. She's getting married next spring. Sophia's eyes widened. The Margaret Hensley? The one who made that incredible dress? Our conversation was interrupted by the wedding march. Everyone rose as Clara appeared at the ballroom entrance. She wore a simple sheath dress, expensive, certainly, the kind of understated elegance that screamed money, but utterly forgettable. No train, no beadwork, no personality. Just designer fabric cut in safe lines. She looked beautiful. Of course, Clara could wear a paper bag and look beautiful, but she didn't look like a bride. She looked like she was attending someone else's wedding. As she passed my table, our eyes met for just a moment. I saw panic there, regret, maybe even desperation. But I kept my expression neutral, the polite smile of a distant acquaintance. The ceremony was mercifully brief. I watched Evelyn in the front row, her satisfaction evident even from behind. She'd won. She'd stripped away the homemade, the handcrafted, the personal, and replaced it with something properly expensive and utterly soulless. During cocktail hour, the whispers started. Is that really what she wore after all that fuss? My daughter showed me the viral dress. This is underwhelming. $20,000 for something off the rack. I sipped my champagne and pretended not to hear. Gloria appeared at my elbow, resplendent in purple and radiating mischief. Phase 2, she murmured. Check the entrance. I turned to see a young woman entering the ballroom, Sarah Chen, one of the junior partners at James's firm, wearing a dress that made everyone stop mid-conversation. My dress. Not the wedding dress, that was safely at home, but one of my other creations, a cocktail dress in midnight blue with constellation beadwork I'd finished just yesterday. I hope you don't mind, Sarah said, approaching our table. Patricia connected us, and when I saw your work, I had to have something for today. I knew there'd be photographers. And there were. The society photographers who'd come for the Carter wedding were suddenly very interested in Sarah's dress. She posed graciously, always mentioning Margaret Hensley's incredible design when asked. More of them appeared throughout the reception. Patricia in her commission piece, an elegant rose gold number I'd stayed up until 3 a.m. to complete. Sophia Weatherby's mother in a restored vintage piece I'd updated with modern touches. Even Nancy Peterson, the mayor's wife, wore one of my creations. A simple but impeccably tailored suit with hand-embroidered details, they moved through the reception like a beautiful rebellion. Each outfit a quiet revolution against the bland, expensive conformity Evelyn prized. The photographers couldn't resist. The mother of the bride might have controlled the wedding, but she couldn't control where the cameras pointed. Margaret Hensley, a reporter from Portland Life magazine, appeared at my table. Could we get a quick interview? Our readers are fascinated by your story. I'm just here to celebrate my daughter. I demurred. Of course. But perhaps just a photo with some of your clients? Soon I was surrounded by women wearing my designs, the photographers snapping away. In the background, I could see Clara watching from the head table, her simple dress looking more plain by the minute. Evelyn's face had gone from satisfied to sour. Such a shame Clara went with something so simple, Nancy Peterson said loudly enough to carry, especially when her mother creates such magic. The coup de grace came when the wedding cake arrived. As the servers wheeled it past, Sarah Chen stood, raising her glass. A toast, she called out, to mothers who pour love into everything they do, and to the children wise enough to recognize it. The room erupted in applause, everyone except the head table. I stood quietly, nodding my thanks, then made my way to the bathroom. I needed a moment away from the cameras, the whispers, the weight of my small revenge. In the mirror, I saw what I'd become. Not the doormat they'd expected, not the bitter mother making a scene, but something more dangerous. A woman who knew her worth and had decided to display it. When I returned, the father-daughter dance was beginning. Clara moved stiffly in James's arms, her eyes scanning the room full of my designs. Every flash of beadwork, every sweep of handmade silk was a reminder of what she'd thrown away. As the song ended, she broke away from James and walked directly to my table. "You win," she said quietly. "Are you happy now?" "No," I answered honestly. "But I'm proud. For the first time in years, I'm proud of what I've made, even if you never were." She turned away without another word, returning to her expensive, empty dress and her expensive, empty victory. The party continued around us, brilliant with the work of my hands, while Clara sat at her head table in designer white, finally understanding what she'd lost. Some lessons come too late. This was hers. 3 weeks have passed since the wedding. I sit in my sewing room at 9 p.m., but it's different now. The old card table has been replaced with a proper cutting station. New lights illuminate the space. Orders stacked neatly in labeled folders. Wedding dresses, evening gowns, restoration projects. My calendar is booked through next year. The wedding dress, Clara's dress that never was, hangs in a place of honor, displayed in a custom case Patricia insisted on buying. Your museum piece. She calls it, it's become something of a legend. People come for consultations and always ask to see it, running their fingers over the glass like pilgrims at a shrine. I'm working on a mother of the bride dress tonight, jade silk with silver embroidery. The client specifically requested something with soul, like that famous dress. Every stitch carries purpose now, valued and valuable. My phone buzzes, a text from an unknown number, but I recognize the photo attached. Clara, on her honeymoon in Santorini, wearing the simple white sundress she'd packed, even in paradise. She looks diminished somehow. The message reads, "Mom, I see you everywhere, in every handmade lace curtain in our hotel, in the local women selling embroidered scarves, in the pride they take in their work. I finally understand what I threw away. Not just a dress. You?" I set the phone aside without responding. Some bridges, once burned, leave gaps too wide for words to cross. Gloria stops by most evenings now. Tonight she brings coffee and gossip from the country club. Evelyn Carter is beside herself, she reports with barely contained glee. 3 separate brides have canceled their orders at her preferred boutique to commission pieces from you instead. I don't do this to hurt her, I say, though we both know that's only partly true. No, you do it because you're an artist. The hurt is just a bonus. She grins wickedly. Oh, and James's senior partner's wife wants to know if you do menswear. Apparently, her husband was so impressed with the wedding coverage that he wants a hand-tailored suit. I laugh, a real laugh, not the polite titter I'd perfected over years of diminishment. I've never done menswear. You'd never done revenge either, but look how well that turned out. The doorbell rings at 10:15 p.m., late for visitors. Through the peephole, I see Clara standing under the porch light, no longer the polished bride, but my daughter in jeans and a messy ponytail, holding a bakery box. I open the door but don't invite her in. We've done this dance before. "Lemon cake," she says, lifting the box. "From Patterson's. Your favorite." "What do you want, Clara?" "Nothing, everything, to tell you that I dream about that dress, that I wake up at 3 a.m. and scroll through the photos of it online, that I wore a $40,000 dress at my wedding and felt naked because it wasn't wrapped in your love." Pretty words again. No. Ugly truth. She sets the cake on the porch railing. "I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I know exactly what I lost, and I'll know it every day for the rest of my life." She turns to leave, then stops. "The dress you made? It wasn't just beautiful. It was you, stitched into silk. All your strength, your patience, your devotion. I was too stupid and shallow to see it then, but I see it now. Every time I close my eyes." I watch her walk to her car, shoulders bent with the weight of understanding that came too late. The taillights disappear into the darkness, and I pick up the cake box. Inside, besides the cake, is a note. I'm getting the dress I wore framed to remind me daily what happens when you value the wrong things, when you mistake price for worth, when you break the heart that built you. I love you, Mom. I just learned too late what that meant. I carry the cake inside but don't eat it. Instead, I return to my sewing, to the jade silk that someone will treasure, to the work that finally treasures me back. The needle slides through fabric with practiced ease, each stitch a small rebellion against every time I was made to feel small. Clara was right about one thing. I did stitch myself into that dress. My skill, my dedication, my refusal to be diminished. She threw it away, but I kept the most important parts. I work until midnight, then cover my project carefully. Tomorrow brings 3 consultations, a fitting, and lunch with Patricia to discuss her referrals. A full life, rich with purpose and recognition. The wedding dress watches from its case, a silk ghost of what might have been. But I no longer see failure when I look at it. I see the moment I stopped accepting less than I deserved. I see the last thing I ever made for free. I see my worth, displayed in ivory and pearl, too precious for those who couldn't recognize it. They say the best revenge is living well. They're wrong. The best revenge is living authentically, stitch by careful stitch, until the world sees what was there all along. I threaded my needle with heartbreak and betrayal, but what I sewed was my own resurrection. And that dress? It wasn't wasted after all. It taught my daughter the price of cruelty and me the value of my gifts. Worth every drop of blood, every tear, every beautiful, vindicated stitch. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'm curious to know where in the world you're listening from. Please share in the comments below so we can connect. If this story touched your heart or reminded you of someone special in your life, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. What would you have done in Margaret's place? Let's discuss in the comments. Your support means everything, and I can't wait to bring you more stories that explore the complex bonds of family, love, and redemption.